The 1970s in America saw a large social change within the black community, sparked by the police brutality during the Civil Rights Movement, assassinations of Dr. King and Malcolm X, escalation of Vietnam War protests. There existed violence and tension between both whites and blacks like never before. As tensions among whites and blacks increased, so did tension between black people within the deteriorating black neighborhoods, commonly referred to at this point as ghettos. Drugs, gang violence, and prostitution threatened to tear apart many of these areas, and things weren't getting any better. Marvin Gaye pressed the legendary single What's Going On to vinyl in early 1971, and it completely changed the message and social consciousness of black music forever. After What's Going On was released, another significant soul music pioneer decided to follow suit. That man was Curtis Mayfield. The growing blaxploitation film industry was becoming both loved and hated by different groups of the black community because of its violent, sexual, and drug-filled portrayals of ghetto life, but its influence on mainstream culture was undeniable. Many soul musicians used them as a vehicle for releasing their music. Curtis Mayfield wrote the score for the film Superfly in 1971. Although he was wary of the film's protagonist being a drug-dealing pimp named Priest, he agreed to compose this socially conscious soundtrack. He followed Marvin Gaye's lead and wrote lyrics that let everyone know what was going on in the ghetto, and that the pimps and drug dealers that were thriving in these neighborhoods should not be looked up to as heroes. I'll let Curtis finish the rest of the story.
For me, it it seemed to be so relevant as to what was really going on, even though it was entertaining and it played a lot on highlights and intriguements, and glitter, which everybody knows is not always nor necessarily gold, There was a depth in the movie that was very relevant as to black people and the going-ons of black people in a certain percentage of the ghetto area. I think a lot of people tend to think that a ghetto is just all one particular thing, which means everybody's playing and dealing dope and the whole bit, which isn't so. And it's really just a small segment crime area, hustle area, just as any other part of our neighborhood dealing with black or white. So it gave me the chance to somewhat fall into the depth of it and give people another outlook as to what the hustle, what the crime, what the hang-ups were, deal with it for what it is, and be done,
Darkest of night with the moon shining bright. There's a set going strong, a lot of things going on. The man of the hour has an air of great power. The dudes have envied him for so long. Oh, Superfly, you're gonna make your fortune by and by. But if you lose, don't ask no questions why. The only game you know is do or die. Hard to understand, but a hell of a man.
Despite the Nixon and Reagan administration's self-declared war on drugs, major drug activities were taking place in the 1980s, especially with the introduction of crack cocaine, a smokable, cheaper, and more easily made form of cocaine that was notorious for running rampant through the ghettos in the 1980s. The flaw of this war was that it targeted not only dealers but also casual drug users. Beginning with the Reagan administration in 1981, the number of drug-related incarcerations skyrocketed from 50,000 to 400,000 by 1997. In 1985, only 2 to 6% of Americans described drugs as the nation's number one problem. By 1989, it had jumped to 64%. Most of those incarcerated were low-income African Americans who were homeless and dependent on drugs to live. This led to more gang violence and pressure on kids to drop school and become drug dealers in order to survive or escape the ghetto. During this time, a radical change was also happening in black music. The feel-good party vibes of funk and disco had given way to a new, fresher, and socially conscious music, hip-hop. And its pioneer MC had an angry group of rappers with furious attitudes who were fed up with ghetto life. This group was called Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Their song, The Message, describes various lives of people that live in the ghetto. He mentions problems like drugs, low income, broken glass in the streets, problems in the school systems, and public safety. All of these problems are the instigators for the hook of the song. Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. Which expresses not only his, but most of the inhabitants of the ghetto's feelings during that time. The attitude of the message was very different from the soul music of blaxploitation films. Instead of striving for improvement by depleting the influence and glorification of drug dealers, the focus was turned to the harsh realities and the broken dreams of the streets. People were getting angrier. The last verse of the song describes the typical life of a child born into the streets.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. A child is born with no state of mind, blind to the ways of mankind. God is smiling on you, but he's frowning too, because only God knows what you'll go through. You'll grow in the ghetto, living second rate, and your eyes will sing a song of deep hate. The places you play and where you stay looks like one great big alleyway. You'll admire all the number book takers, thugs, pimps, and pushers, and the big money makers, driving big cars, spending 20s and 10s, and you wanna grow up to be just like them. Smugglers, scramblers, burglars, gamblers, pickpocket peddlers, even panhandlers. You say I'm cool, I'm no fool, but then you wind up dropping out of high school. Now you're unemployed, all non-void, walking around like your pretty boy Floyd. Turned stick-up kid, but look what you done did. Got sent up for an 8-year bid. Now your manhood is took and you're a make tag. Spend the next 2 years as an undercover fag, being used and abused to serve like hell. Till one day you was found hung dead in a cell. It was plain to see that your life was lost. You was cold and your body swung back and forth. But now your eyes sing the sad, sad song of how you live so fast and die so young. So don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
Tensions in the ghettos were tightening. A young group of rappers from South Central Los Angeles, one of the toughest neighborhoods in the United States, released a single that would stir up a lot of controversy. The group was NWA, and the song was eloquently titled, Fuck the Police. This ushered in a new era of hip-hop, gangsta rap. At this point, the aftermath of the 1980s crack cocaine explosion had taken its toll on the black community. The members of NWA experienced all of this firsthand, and were old enough and ready to voice their strong and often violent opinions. Although the song was released in 1988, its influence reached ahead to the LA riots in 1991. When LAPD officers were found not guilty after severely beating a young black man named Rodney King, and then a teenage girl named Latasha Harlins was killed by a store owner for shoplifting, things erupted. A massive 5-day-long riot ensued that resulted in $1 billion in damages and 53 people killed. NWA's song became an anthem for these riots.
Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad 'cause I'm brown. And not the other color, so police think they have the authority to kill a minority. Fuck that shit 'cause I ain't the one for a punk motherfucker with a badge and a gun to be beaten on and thrown in jail. We can go toe to toe in the middle of a sale. Fucking with me 'cause I'm a teenager with a little bit of gold and a pager. Searching my car, looking for the product, thinking every nigga is selling narcotics. You rather see.
Since then, things have quieted down some. Rap music became mainstream after the turn of the 90s, and after the members of NWA disbanded, they and other gangster rappers had a lot more cash in their pockets and left the ghetto. Although this certainly was not the end of protesting and angry rap music, it was certainly a high point, and its influence can still be felt.